Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Scientology Money Project on YouTube. Welcome, glad to see you here. We're going to go, we're going to go with a way cool post-pandemic Scientology, and I think that's the right thing to call it. A lot has happened, so we're going to do updates on criminal hustlers, money, and master race psychopolitics. While we're at the Stork Club having a cigarette while we wait for dinner. And that would be a cool cigarette, of course, to stay on policy. So that was a pretty cool hipster photo there. That's like that's guys. That's just like a '50s look, sitting with great Hollywood clubs and smoking, maybe talking to Mitch and Maury from downtown, because they're going to send you in to teach these guys to always be closing. Anyway, welcome to the show. A lot going on. So I want to say hello to Joe. Welcome. Glad you're here. Hi, Chuck. Oh, I had Mao. I have a David Miscavige's Mao Zedong, but I took that down because the Hollywood image was more chic. Hello, Denise. Glad to see you here. 51,000. Glad to see you here. Power lies to paralyze. PLTP. And hello. Yeah. Hi, Pam. Hello, Wayne's World. So yeah, that photo is really that's kind of like what I would like to be. 51,000 back in the 50s. Nice suit, smoking a cigarette there and having a martini. That sounds good right about now. Sherman Billingsley would never let Hubbard in. No, he would not. Adam, you are correct. I told you I was trouble. Hi, trouble. Glad to see you here. No, the Hubbard wouldn't have gotten in the Stork Club. He would have been thrown out. But, Hubbard had been thrown out of better places, including countries. Hubbard was thrown out of countries. Oh, hi, Fat Grammy. Were you over at Poe's Place? I was doing show preps. I couldn't jump in to Poe's, but I'm glad you're here. And yeah. So a couple updates on, oh, hi, CLB Bilf. Be right back. Having out 2D. Go check Colonel. Yeah, that's like in that era. Yeah, that's Code Check Girls and that whole thing. And anyway, this is a nice alternative to former motifs. I think I'm going to start upgrading from corduroy to having a new running joke. Maybe meet at the Stork Club. Right now, there's a place in downtown Hollywood where a lot of PI types meet. I'm not going to give the name of it, but it's a pretty trendy place. But unless you know it's there and how to get there, you're never going to find it. So, oh, hi, Brendana. No, Brendana does not make a good martini. And Brendana, no, all these younger people, I got to fix my hat, are buying like, what I was reading on, I was listening to the news. The ready-made cocktail, the beverage, is a report on the beverage industry, and pre-mixed cocktails and cans are a market segment that are way up, meaning that younger people just don't like the art of mixing martini when you can just buy one, a canned martini. I like kind of mixing it, but I've been at the idea of like a can. It's like I'm old school. Mix a martini, but I don't have anything against it. If you want to pick one up when you're in getting, pocket square must match the shirt. Yes. Now this is actually a very nice gray suit, blue. This is a good look. This is just a well-dressed man for that era, and looks like an entertainment attorney, maybe getting ready to fuck someone over on a contract. Yeah, it is. So, but this presentation, a couple things I want to do, just to bring you up to date on criminal hustlers. There's a picture I took of Scientology recently. It's up on my blog. I like this particular framing because you can kind of see the berthing and the stairwells, and you can see the power pole. And hi, Sir Crap. It is good to see you here. Glad you rolled up. Um, so, as long as those cans only emit alcohol and not pulses of electricity, yeah, they're going to emit alcohol. Yep, it's different cans. Yes, sir. So this is a picture I really like. I really like the mood and atmosphere because it shows East Hollywood, and it's all the infrastructures above ground. This facility was built in 1928, and I like this photo. This is they still have the planners up, and they still have L. Ron Hubbard Way blocked. So the Scientology cult is still very much in hiding, defensive mode. And if there were a way they could get L. Ron Hubbard Way permanently closed, I'm sure they would. You know, it's weird. They closed down parts of Hollywood and Sunset Boulevard. They closed the lane in each direction near where Karen and I live, and supposedly for bike safety and parking. And part of that has a lot of residents up in arms, but part of it was done by Damien Kevitt, a former Sea Org member who almost lost his leg in an accident when he was riding his bike many years ago. And so Damien's become an advocate for bicyclists. He was behind that. And oh, hi Gary. Oh, so yeah, I'm glad Poe's sending a room rate over. That's good to know. I appreciate the support from you all. Yeah. So anyway, Damien was Sea Org. I don't know if he's still a Scientologist. I don't know the story on him, but Damien do not like this pro bike thing at all. Don't like your politics, and that's a local issue. And I don't think this is going to be permanent. You shut down these lanes for bicyclists, but that's a local gripe. So now the big story that I've been covering, like I said, for many years is David Gentili, Scientologist, as is his wife Joanne, and he has other family members in, as I understand. He was convicted in U.S. federal court, and this was the $1.7 billion Ponzi-like scheme, and you can see it's highlighted that he's looking at 20 years. He's looking at 20 years. So he and his criminal co-defendant Jeffrey Schneider of Bees Cave, Texas. If you've ever heard of that, it's right outside of Austin. It's a pretty wealthy enclave. Uh, yeah. So, hi, Norman. Glad you're over from Poe. Thanks. I hope Poe himself, the man, makes an appearance here. Yes, he nearly lost his life. I'm glad he didn't. Of course, taxpayers picked up that $1 million bill to save his life, which Scientology would not step in, and he did. I'm glad Damien did not get killed. He's doing pro events, finished the ride. He's working for bike safety. So he's doing a lot of good work after he was almost killed, exiting the 5 freeway on his bike, that vicinity up by Griffith Park. So I'm glad he wasn't injured. Scientology, to its discredit, did not pay his medical bills. Taxpayers did. So Damien's been active, and I've been supportive of what he's doing, except getting those lanes closed down. Like I said, it's going to go on. But let's go back to David Gentili. So a question I get asked is, what happens after you're convicted? So Gentili and Schneider remain out. They weren't remanded into custody, which surprised me. A lot of white collar criminals aren't, and so he's out on bail, and his sentencing was set for sometime in October, and they're going through the probationary report and everything they do before you're sentenced. So he's looking at 20 years. I think he and Schneider get 20 years. I thought they were going to issue a lot more charges, and he's going to go to jail longer, but 240 months. What the feds appear to be doing now, instead of charging with 500 charges and wanting to go for 50 to 100 years, it looks like with a lot of white collar criminals, the feds are now only charging 4 or 5 charges that they know they can have a 99% conviction rate on. And the things for which David Gentili was charged, it was indisputable. That's why there was an 8-week trial. Jury took 4 hours to convict. So Well, some people would be to talk about a flight risk, but they flagged when you get sentenced, criminally sentenced, and you're going to be out on bail immediately. A notice goes out from the court to Department of Homeland Security, TSA, everyone else. You probably surrender your passport. I think he had already surrendered it. But the thing is, if you try to become a fugitive, that becomes a separate criminal charge. So it's not like, you know what, Sylvia Belf, it's not like the old days where you could be like Robert Vesco, fugitive financier. It's not so easy, is it? Um, no, the probationary report's going to be bad. This is 1.7 billion, and it's 15,000 investors. There's going to be victim impact statements. I think he's going to get all 240. I think the judge is going to throw the book at he and Schneider because showed no remorse. They fought the case. They tried to get the case thrown out. They spent, as I'll show, almost $120 million in legal fees over 5 years of investor money because the investors indemnified them. And so a whole bunch of things happen when you're convicted. And Scientology's got this on his radar. There's the SEC case, United States Securities Exchange Commission versus David Gentile, Schneider, and others. This is where I think former Sea Org members who were on the witness list for the feds in the federal trial. I think this is where some Sea Org members are going to get hauled into all that the civil trials because there's still, I believe, 8 states attorneys general plus the SEC. So there's still a whole bunch of trouble ahead. And what let me see where what David Gentile has done is, let me see if I can find it. Okay, basically I don't have it up. So Cobra and Kim, a New York law firm, criminal defense for Gentile, they want to. They're claiming because of the SEC trial that the sentencing should be put off until 2025, till January. And as I read that, David Gentile wants one more Christmas and New Year with his family before he is sent to prison. And the government, Breon Peace and Artie McConnell and the team who put them away, have protested with the court. No, this has gone on for many years. It's serious. Victims deserve justice. So what appears to be happening with GPB Capital, and I have a lot of people from GPB watching me because this is a Scientology adjacent story, but the 15,000 investors and their families read my blog and watch it because I've been reporting on the story. I think the court will say no. No, the sentencing is going to go forward, and I think that David Gentile will be in U.S. federal prison before the end of the year. I don't think they're going to give him Christmas out, and uh, oh, I have a compliment, so I have to take that. I like your coat, casual yet chic. Yes, thank you. It's a Tommy Bahama. It's unstructured, and I like it too. Thank you. Yes, but there's no advanced organ in Honduras. Well, when you're a federal fugitive, I guess if you have enough money, you could fly over to Colombia, to Cartagena, and get some auditing there, or in Peru. So the feds are leaving the states and opening by not filing all charges. No, Wayne, let me differentiate. The feds appear to be, because I've been following all the press releases, the feds appear to be charging where they could charge 100 felonies on David Gentile. I mean, you've got so much criminality there with he was taking money, including like, I don't want to give too much information, but for example, DJ Partners was a way he and Schneider paid themselves, Dave and Jeff Partners. And they paid Joanne, his wife was taking money, and she was through her law firm. And she had a law firm with a relative. And Santo, his father, was taking money for accounting fees. And this gets so the federal case is different. The state cases are securities fraud and state charges, which the federal case was federal charges. So so anyway, it's like in any frame of reference, David Gentili is going to go to prison, and he has a lot of legal work ahead of him. He should go to Elba. Yeah, Elba. So Napoleon went. So the point I wanted to make, let's go back up on the screen. So he's looking at 20 years, and I think he gets 20 years. And so much for Scientology. Stayed the hell out of this case, except the Sea Org members and Scientologists like Manuel Viana. They're named in it. I think they come out in the civil cases because this is a long way to go. Now, Danny Masters, I mentioned, he got 30 years for essay, his victims, and those were the two convictions. So the point I wanted to make here, is look at Scientology, the most ethical group on the planet, between two Scientologists, Daniel Peter Masterson and David Gentili, who, let's assume he's going to get 20. I think he gets all 20. The court throws the book at him. Just between those two, there's 50 years in prison. So how's that most ethical group on the planet working out? It's not. And then the Spina brothers, James Spina, got 9 years. So I can get to 60 years with 3 Scientologists just within the recent time frame. And it gets worse. So between Danny Masterson and David Gentili, that's 2 Scientologists, 50 years in prison. There's 3 victims that were, Masterson got convicted on 2. David Gentili has 15,000 victims. So it's telling that when we see this headline in the LA Times, they say that he essayed former Scientologists. That was definitely part of the story. That was part and parcel. Scientology is part of the GPB Capital story. And for those Scientologists who were involved in it, if you think you're going to walk out, nope. The criminal case was one thing, the state cases are another. I think you should get a criminal defense attorney. I'm not a lawyer, but you know what's coming your way. And that light at the end of the tunnel is not it's not the implanting station, it's justice. So I think there's still going to be more Scientologists. But that point, like, look at it, 50 years between 2 Scientologists for horrendous crimes. One David Gentili's crime harms 15,000 investors, most of whom are retired. And a lot of them died. Their estates are fighting the cases, and there's law firms. So look at the damage that Scientology allows their parishioners. Scientology covered up the Jane Does, and it's just, I'm glad all this is coming out. So 50 years between 2. Now this is James Spina along with his brother. They conducted a big fraud. They were convicted in 2021, but James Spina was sentenced to 108 months in U.S. prison. So one question I'm often asked, this is just interesting. Yeah, the cover-ups are horrifying. Yeah, light at the end of the tunnel is a train, a Venusian freight locomotive. Hubbard said that, he said, some people say that Venus is not habitable. Well, I find it quite habitable. I was just up there the other day and I almost got hit by a Venusian freight locomotive. I'm allergic to freight locomotives. I'm paraphrasing, but Hubbard said he was on Venus and he almost got hit by a Venusian freight locomotive. And people give his cult money. I don't know. Hey, hello, Susie. All glad to have you here. Yeah, good satire kicker would be Ibrahim 10x Shabazz. Yeah, Scientology, NOI, adjacent financial criminal. I'm glad you mentioned Nation of Islam, Sylvie Bilf, because Tony Muhammad's crypto coin disappeared. It was put down. It was disposed of quietly and without sorrow. His peace coin, Tony Muhammad's peace coin, they're still selling some stuff online, but that whole crypto went away. And then Alfredi had with the Ramen Brothers in they're a Scientology in Clearwater. Alfredi had his own this weird crypto digital thing some time ago. Uh, yeah, I was just love your LRH impersonation. People tell me that they like it, so I like to do it because it is entertaining. And I tell people there's different Rons. When he was young, using a lot of speed, he would talk fast, but I like the older one. Um, Here, just for the amusement of it, I always like to do Scientologyomancy, where we just turn over, and I did it, and here's Hubbard. By running genetic entity incidents, by cleaning up present life, by running past deaths, the auditor can get rid of psychosomatics. By the bail for the pre-clear, the auditor can practically rebuild the body. He can clarify thought by taking away pains. We're stimulated by thinking, you see. He can do 1,000 marvels never before possible here on Earth, or anywhere else for that matter. Wow. So Hubbard's saying the auditor can do 1,000 marvels never before possible here on Earth, or anywhere else for that matter. So something that was not possible on Earth or anywhere else in the entire universe. True story. A history of man. This is always a weird book cover. Um, I could never figure out like what this uh, prehistoric Neanderthal. I don't know. Um, or maybe it's someone in Hollywood. Um, in History of Man, they have this Neanderthal or human. I don't know what they're thinking. They don't give the anthropological context of the graphic, but he's eating this big turkey drumstick, and I don't know what that's. At the bottom, what interested me that they didn't have in the original version, you can see along the bottom under History of Man, it says antediluvian technology. Now, antediluvian means before the flood, described in the Bible. So Scientology is actually promoting antediluvian technology. Now, to me, that's really interesting because that would resonate with the Nation of Islam, the pre-Adamic races, and when you go into antediluvian technology or antediluvian thinking, that basically there's a lot of Christians, and this has been going on forever, that there were races that existed before Father Adam was riding around on a dinosaur. Because, as you know, the Earth is 6,000 years old, and dinosaurs pre-existed with Father Adam. He had his own Brontosaurus. Um, so, um, so they're going into antediluvian races, and I think that's to resonate with the Nation of Islam. And that would be interesting to look at Hubbard's claim that there's and he says antediluvian technology. Like, what technology? Um, uh, into a whole bunch of stuff we'll cover one time. Oh, thank you. Hope you will respond. I have a question. Okay, Tolly, did I answer you a previous email? But I will answer your email. Damn, but that's almost creepy. It is creepy. So we're going to go into the antediluvian technology. Um, Islam could be arguably a branch of Christianity, and yes, but it's monotheistic without the Trinity for sure. But we're not going to get we're going to the weeds. I want to get Scientology on that Answers in Genesis tip. We'll do a show one day devoted to antediluvian technology because I was going through a history of man along with science of survival, and there's some new ground I want to break in my taking apart Scientology. My manuscript's almost done. I thought I was going to be end of August. It'll probably be end of September, so I hope to have it up on Amazon in time for Christmas. Nation of Islam has its own Trinity. I did not know that. What's the Trinity? Is it You have to, Adam, if you could just let me know. I did not know that because I thought they were, well, I mean, see, this is Louis Farrakhan will speak out of the Bible, which is Trinitarian, and pure Islam is the purest form of monotheism among the uh, biblical based, races, biblical bases, biblical based theologies, and but they just have a racial component where the black man was the original man, and this is where Farrakhan and Riza Islam, their argument Riza was putting forth is that the original man was the black man, and it was the black man that came up with Scientology, but later on in God's providence, he used a white man named L. Ron Hubbard to bring forth this technology that came from 50,000 years of thinking men. And that preceded the white man who was created by a scientist in the Nation of Islam theology. So I think this is the antediluvian technology. And anyway, let's go back to um, um, let's go back to the criminals. Yeah, so I got to ask, what happens? So when you get convicted of a crime in the United States, you're going to pay a criminal fine to the government, and that the criminal fine is going to be different than different than the restitution you're ordered to pay the victims. So there's always a fine you're going to pay. And I wanted to bring up to you some data. We're going to look at some data concerning criminal law. And wow, this is why I'm stream of consciousness. I say I do neat ordered presentations. I can. I'm just like stream of consciousness. And okay, so James Spina, chiropractor, with his brother Jeffrey Spina and their sister Kim, all Scientologists. And okay, so I want to make sure I have this here. Uh, um, wow. Let me just see. I have to get the Spina brothers. Oh yeah. Okay. So here's what happened, and here's why: if you commit crimes, you're going to pay. You're going to pay everything, not just time in jail, but everything you own. These are criminal fines, federal forfeiture, all kinds of things. So we're going to look for United States versus Spina, and I want to make sure this is yes. Okay, I'm going to show you what happened in United States versus Spina. That's Jeffrey and James Spina, and they committed about an $80 million Medicare fraud. They were chiropractors. So they were getting these doctors to refer them, and they were giving non-existent treatments. This is a document, and when you get a judgment against you, you're called a judgment creditor. Judgment creditor. I'm sorry, the U.S. is the creditor, and James Spina is the judgment debtor. So, and there's his wife, Malene Spina, and Effective Marketing Communications, Joint Relief Defendants. This is a really interesting document. It's on Case Text, which is a great site. But basically, James Spina was ordered to pay $9.7 million. $9.7 million. He also had to forfeit $9.1 million. So he got hit with two penalties, restitution of 9.7 million and a fine, a forfeiture of 9.1 million. So that's, call it $19 million. And I'm doing this because this is what David Gentili's lining up for. He's going to get hit with a huge fine and forfeiture. So when the feds move in to collect, they actually hit Spina with a writ of garnishment, and that means they're going to take everything. So they served the judgment debtor and his former spouse, his ex-wife, Meline Spina, because she was married to him. They went after her assets. And basically, they took IRAs in the amount of $363,000 and 3.1 million and 595,000, 786,000. So you can see they know when you get convicted, and this is what's going to happen to David Gentile and Jeffrey Schneider. They're going to go and move in against David and his wife Joanne. They know where their assets are, and they're going to take the bulk of those assets. And their related companies, they took 98,000 from FS Investments. So you can see this is you basically this is an annuity for 596,000 from Meline Spina. So they took her annuity of 596,000, and they go through all the money, and you have to turn it over. So they stripped them of their assets. I think Meline in this, she gets to keep 160,000, which presumably is not the proceeds of criminality, and so they're going to return it to her. So James Spina had to cover up 19.1 million, and then they went after his house. And you can see that his ex-wife had an address there in Clearwater, Florida. There goes their retirement. No kidding. Yeah, it's they're the feds take it all, and they're going to take the houses. So you can see that they tried. Here's what. Whereas whereas to avoid the government filing a fraudulent transfer action regarding real property located at 9 Turner Street, Clearwater, Florida, his ex-wife acknowledged that he has half. James had one half in it. So basically, community property. Uh, the government will not execute or foreclose, but they get payment of half of it. So his Spina's ex-wife has to refi the place or come up with the money, or the government will take it. So David Gentile's home in Manhasset, and that's in court documents. I'm not giving out anything private. So they'll take the real property, and his wife, in order to keep it in something, she's got to come up with. And then you can see that there's further liquidate securities and everything. So this is scorched earth. This is scorched earth after you're found. So this is what the process is going to have happen. So David Gentile is going to argue, and Pacer, I've been downloading the papers. He's going to argue that about how much the fine should be. The government's position, it's all proceeds of crime plus penalties, plus fines. It's like a traffic ticket, but much bigger. So Jay Spina had to pay a 9.7 million in restitution to the victims, and he had to pay a 9.1 million as a fine. So, they took everything, and then they went down into his IRAs and all that stuff you save for retirement. So it's real scorched earth, and that's what happened. Now, this is interesting that James Spina shall pay the victims restitution 9.7 million. And like I said, there was a 9.1 million on top of that. But people ask me down there, look, point B, it says pursuant to 18 U.S.C. 3664I, all non-federal victims must be paid for the U.S. So that's a question I get asked. Basically, the victims get paid before the government gets paid, because the state has an interest in making sure the individuals who are victimized by these Scientology criminals, these dirtbag scum criminals, the government has an interest in making sure they are paid before the government takes its money. And James Spina to date has only paid $971 in this. I think that was from 2 years ago. But they basically, even some of the money he makes in prison, their government's going to take. So at one point, he'd only paid 971 toward it, and that's where the government had seized everything. So yeah, no kidding. There's so all the companies everywhere you're hiding money, And people have asked me, do you think David Gentile and Jeffrey Schneider will hide money? No, I think the Commonwealth of Massachusetts was so good in finding all the companies, and the government is so good that a couple things happen. I've noticed an address in Clearwater, Florida, just by Googling it. Right after the start of criminal trial, David Gentile moved some brownstones, and this is all public. I just Googled it. Moved some brownstones in Brooklyn, and there's a fellow named Abdul Ahmad involved, his wife Joanne. He moved them. Apparently, he took a New York LLC and a Florida LLC. He wound down the Florida LLC and merged it into the Clearwater one at his address. David Gentile is a Florida resident. If he's thinking to move property so that you can't take it in Florida, because when OJ went to prison, they didn't take his house or his NFL pension. I don't think that's going to work in this particular case. The assets were acquired before he was Florida. And also, the feds have that kind of bone crushing power. So I'm not saying there's fraudulent conveyance going on, but there were moves made on or about June 17, 2024. And the feds are looking at this. So there is some stuff going on where Gentile is moving stuff around. Again, this is public. You just Google it. It's all so Gentile is leaving a lot of breadcrumbs around. Schneider is being radio silent. It's much harder to find anything on Schneider. So David Gentile and Michael Franzese hiding those gold Krugerrands with Carl Held and Maureen Brigada. Yeah, they transferred it down the rabbit hole. And in fact, you know what you could do? Should be built if you took a Scientology can, look at its hollow. Okay, so no, it won't work that way. Anyway, if you took this would be the perfect size to stack a whole bunch of Krugerrands in. You could probably bid about 25. This is exactly like a 50-cent piece. But they have cans in different sizes, but you could stack Krugerrands in here and then tape off the bottom and ship a set of cans that are worth a lot of money with gold. What's gold? Can someone put up the price of an ounce of gold today? So you could try to smuggle it in here. But no, seriously, the feds, if you don't want to get charged with, fraudulent conveyance and other crimes, this is one of those things. That's why these things came to my attention. It's like I was just Googling addresses and partnerships, because if you go on a certain website that visualizes corporations, you will find this stuff so easily. Someone said to me, a reporter said to me that Gentile was viewed as a financial wizard, and I said, yeah, that's why the jury convicted in 4 hours. So much for that theory. So that's what happens. There's going to be a fine, a big criminal fine, and that's what Gentile's arguing about, along with Schneider. But in any case, is going to be given 1.7 billion, and how much Gentile swindled out of his investors by criminal conduct is going to be huge. Oh, this is a picture I found. There's a Facebook group called Architecture Shaming, but I put this up. I was going to make a joke at my satire blog, Otita's Great, about how the ceiling at St. Hill Manor was recently remodeled, but because it was found too visually stimulating, they're going to remodel it. Anyway, I found this on the Facebook group called Architectural Shaming, which is a crack up. It's worst architecture. I thought that was a kind of a funny picture. Like, how this is one of those decorating faux pas you don't think about till like it's all up, and then you go, it wasn't meant to come out like that, and but it did. Okay, so 2,500 per ounce today, Gary. Wow. So if So if you do the where's my can? So if we stack Krugerrands in cans or in the big plastic e-meter cases, or not the e-meter, the oh, what is it? Yeah, I've always said that these are nothing but smuggling vehicles. These big plastic clamshells. You know, they used to call Scientologists clams because Hubbard said there was a clam. There was a on the evolutionary line, clams would be on the beach and they would get sand into their jaw, and the clam jaw implant would cause irritation. And if you talk clam jaw implant, people would need a right away. They would need dental surgery, so you couldn't talk about the clam jaw implant. So Scientologists were called clams for a while because of the clam jaw implant. You can Google it. 1 ounce gold Krugerrand is currently worth $24.97. Wow, on Google. Wow. You know, if you go over to Peace Coin, and that's Tony Muhammad's thing, they're selling gold at like 3 times market. So, well, I'm glad I have a little bit of gold. So I've always said that, you know, these are smuggling vehicles. You can just throw out the Hubbard stuff. And yeah, so anyway, but I think that so anyway, that's what's happening with David Gentili is he's trying to argue to put sentencing off until the new year so he can have another Christmas with his family. And he did spend a where do I have that? Oh, let me share this with you because you have to see it to believe it. And yeah, they've got to get the lighting fixed at St. Hill there, because it sends the wrong signal. Anyway, that's just funny. Architectural shaming is the name of it. So I put in. I'm going to stop screen. Share this screen. I covered it on my blog. You might want to go look at it. It's how Scientologist criminal David Gentili and his pal Jeffrey Schneider spent $108 million on legal fees. So a lot of that money was for, it wasn't just for their criminal defense. Most of it was, I think, because they both had different legal teams of high-priced lawyers. But there were other legal fees they had to pay the monitor and things. But still, the lion's share. Now, one of my sources told me they're going to be ordered to pay back the investors all those legal fees. So if they have to do restitution plus the money they took on legal fees, because in the private equity contracts they signed, investors agreed to indemnify them, and the Delaware Chancery Court made them pay. So I go through that, the monitor, and Joseph Gardamal, and I think the Second Circuit will put GBB. What I thought they would be in receivership by now and unwind the company, but that's how much money you can rack up, and so that's worth looking at. Um, but that's from the monitor who runs the company, along with Rob Shamil, the CEO. You can spend that much money. So that's $3 million a month for whatever 3 years, I think. That's where the money goes. That's why Scientology has to, yes, and they still lost. They not only did they lose, but they lost big time. When you spend that much money and the jury comes in 4 hours, guilty on all charges, yeah, the lawyers win and nobody else does. So the other thing I wanted to talk about. So we're going to stop sharing that page. Stop sharing. The other thing that Scientology post pandemic, history of man. Hubbard says that cavities are a genetic trait because of the clams washed up the shore getting baked by the sun, and the pearls were an irritation, causing the clam to open and desiccate. Yes, there's a clam jaw implant, and that's how it happened. So when we were clams on the beach, sand would get in, it would irritate us, form a pearl, but would give us, we carry that forward, Hubbard says, on our whole track into present life, where it's not really a dental problem, it's a Scientology problem. It's on the whole track, and it needs to be cleaned up in auditing. Along with getting hit by so you did there. Nip suffered. L. Ron Hubbard Jr. was called Nibs, but Adam's having some fun. Um, okay, so the other thing I'm going to share, and I just posted this, so we will. Oh yeah, now Scientology has always been delusional. I mean, that's why their spokesman's Ken delusional, paranoid, and hateful. Uh, a journalist asked me to characterize them in a few words. I said delusional, paranoid, hateful. They are greedy, bent on revenge. And so they just had this. I just got a magazine someone gave me here locally in Los Feliz. They're on the mailing list. Look at this. Enter the zone of super being. So Scientologists who are still very much in the bubble, Flag is still promoting the zone of super beings. That's the master race. And what's scary is there's a genocide, which I cover. Hubbard called for a genocide. And he said that Scientologists were a master race called Homo novus. And this is good to go over if you've never seen it or read it. This is the Seord contract where the goal is to put in ethics on this planet and the universe. And as I read the Hubbard quote earlier, there's things that they do on this planet that have never been done or anywhere in the universe. So that's kind of the basic thing. They're getting back to their super being, that you will be a super being, which means a member of a master race, that you'll be an OT. So Scientology is now in their literature beginning to. This is a slightly older book edition, but they're now back pushing the idea that you're part of an elite master race. So that's coming back in their advertising. I'm going to do a show on that. Hubbard's quote, man had ceased to be Homo sapiens, had to become Homo Scientologicus. So he actually created a racial thing. And this is a master race. And he talks about in this post what a Homo novus is, a skyscraper higher than Homo sapiens, which they call us Homo saps. A Scientologist is a WOG, someone who's not even trying. So that's again how Scientologists think of us. So Hubbard created the SP order that SPs can be deprived of property, injured without any discipline of Scientologist. If you haven't seen this for a while, this is Hubbard's order in 67. SP order, fair game. SPs may be deprived of property or injured by any means by any Scientologist without any discipline of the Scientologist. That means that actually goes to being murdered. May be deprived of property or injured by any means. So that's injured by any means you can use a firearm, a knife. Hubbard's giving you Scientologists, shockingly, he's giving them injured by any means, hitting them with a car, arson, knife, gun. I mean, that's just startling when you really think about it. And that we need to, yes, they are just, yeah, Pamela, what you said. When you say by any means possible, that's literally any means possible. Drowning, electrocution, you go through all the manners in which you can injure or end someone's life. Hubbard's saying do it. And the Scientologists will not get any discipline. He's saying that SPs may be tricked, sued, lied to, or destroyed. Now, for Leah Remini's case, and I'm watching that case carefully. This Jane Doe's as well. The legal how Scientology is fighting, how it's gotten down to a very narrow arbitration clauses and other things. But this document that they may be tricked, sued, or lied to, or destroyed. When it says destroyed, the thing is, destroyed means death, to murder. So Scientology in Science of Survival says that Scientologists may actually murder people, destroy them by any means possible, because destroy means murder. And I've had Scientologists protest to me that Scientology doesn't have a genocide or a call for murder, but it does. It's in Science of Survival, which is a required book. It's in this order right here that you can actually literally murder people. And That's the literal reading. If David Miscavige were like Muammar Gaddafi and had $75 billion in a private army and he had impunity, you can bet that. So Scientology doesn't have the capability to carry out violence. However, they do it to the degree that they can. But if they were a bigger, more powerful group like the Mormons in the 19th century, where they had their own private army and Brigham Young had his own assassins, they would be doing it. So it's always bothered me that Scientology has never denounced its genocidal or murderous scriptures or its master race scriptures. And I think this needs to go out as part of the messaging. Um, this from Science of Survival, basically, Hubbard says you can raise people above 2.0 by auditing or dispose of them quietly and without sorrow. So you can see that. Dispose of them quietly and without sorrow. Hubbard said that 20% of the people on the earth are antisocial personalities and that 2.5% were suppressive. And he says that Hubbard writes, the sudden and abrupt deletion of all individuals occupying the lower bands of the tone scale from the social order would result in an almost instant rise in the cultural tone and would interrupt the dwindling spiral. But when Hubbard says the sudden and abrupt deletion, that's just a code word for genocide. A sudden and abrupt deletion is a genocide. And how many people would be involved? Well, in 2.0 or below, these people have to be either brought above 2.0 or disposed of in a genocide. And so this framework, I've worked out the numbers before, and the Earth has 8.2 billion people at present. I checked that yesterday. So 20% of that is 1.6 billion people that would be in Scientology's gun sites that have antisocial personalities. And if the worst 2.5 had to be deleted, you know, from society in a genocide, that's 205 million persons in 2024. That's the size of the genocide that Hubbard proposes. And Hubbard says the aberrative personality is so badly off that he can only lead a parasitic existence. To me, that's completely projection. Scientology, the cult, is leading a parasitic existence. But nevertheless, Hubbard's basically, this is like every other horrible cult bent on world domination. And then Hubbard talks about the psychopolitics, clearing everybody in a neighborhood, and the org becomes the political center. Um, and it becomes the government. And that's one reason Hubbard wants to destroy psychiatry, is to have a monopoly. So it's pretty vicious. So you move from the crimes of Danny Masterson being covered up by the church to David Gentili screwing over 15,000 people who he probably considered wogs, to Hubbard calling for a genocide. And they're doing this while they're still pushing themselves as a master race. And so there's so much that gets so they like to think of themselves as nice people, but Scientologists, when you're in the group, you think you're a super being, and your own scriptures have a call to destroy 20% of the global population in a genocide, which is pretty horrific. Um, uh, yeah, that's a good question within their metaphysics, but apparently, uh, to answer your question, Hubbard believed that Scientology's goal was to reverse the theta and theta ratio. So that's why they wanted 10,000 people on solo knots. Let me translate that word salad. Solo knots is where you're by yourself in a room auditing your BTs. And you do it several times a day for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever long, but you do 5 or 6 sessions, write it up, send your notes in the flag to your case supervisor. And Hubbard believed that if 10,000 people were auditing their BTs, that would reverse the dwindling spiral, he called it. And that's a Gnostic conception he's using. And so if you reverse the dwindling spiral, it would be sufficient to not supposedly not allow these people to incarnate on this planet. They would have to go somewhere else. So it gets like Nation of Islam, it gets pretty dark and twisted. It, like with any religious violent religious groups, as is Scientology, as we can see from the fair game going on right now, which is intensified to the degree that Scientology can get away with it. But at some point, they've crossed some lines, and so Nerman, I'm not gonna be political on my show, so just gonna delete your comment, Nerman. Just take it elsewhere. So, so that's kind of the thing. Is there's been criminality. We've had Scientologists go to prison just between, like I said, to reiterate, Danny Masterson, David Gentili are 50 years between them. The Spina brothers are 9. There's a lot of other criminals I didn't list. I want to do that on my next show and show how much carnage they really caused, damage, and I could put a dollar amount to it. So ahead for Scientology, I predict that they're going to keep shrinking, and they're also going to they're going to intensify and become more radical. And that's been the trend, is the radicalization of the remaining members. You have to become more radical to stay in. And it's not just money. It's going to be about striking an effective blow for the church. So I'm aware of some intelligence information about what a few Scientologists are planning. And just stay tuned for that, because it may not materialize. Oh, I wanted to add, I've been doing shows on mapping Scientology. I have this is not a sponsor. This is a Uniden P2 trunk scanning device. It's the latest tool I've gotten. It's very good at picking up, trunked communications, as you call it. So that's a project I'm doing, is some signals mapping. And I learned these techniques from the open source intelligence community that's doing mapping of the Russians. And supposedly, going off topic here, because I said I have family in that part of the world, signals jamming of Russian drones is partly the reason the Ukrainians have surged in Kursk. And this is really interesting. Hello, T. I'm glad you're listening while you're driving. It's nice to know. Hope you're having a wonderful time. So, yeah, that's exactly it. A cornered animal can be very dangerous. So inside the Scientology bubble, there are people, and on Aaron's was it Aaron's show? Natalie's, I think, played a tape of a young lady, and she was talking to a CRG member who was denying that they knew much about the Masterson case. The Gentili case, when it gets brought up in ethics, gets handled. And I have a lot more I can say about the David Gentili case, but until he's sentenced and put in prison, I'm going to put it in abeyance. But I have some very specific things on some CRG members and some regular public Scientologists, and I followed the money trail extensively. And so there's going to be more to come out of that. And there could possibly be some more arrests. And the people know who they are and what they did, and the feds know. So I think when it goes down to civil, this is where it gets interesting. So there's a lot so that's kind of an update from the things I watch. Obviously it's good to have a lot of channels and people covering everything. It's unfortunate that a lot of bridges have been burned, but that happens in movement politics. Some bridges get burned. And whether there's ever be a reconciliation, I don't know. I don't think so. But that happens in movements. Movements spread apart, different camps and movements. So those are the things I wanted to cover is Gentili's sentencing. I hope he gets put in jail before Christmas. 2, he's up for a lot of fines and penalties along with Jeffrey Schneider. The guy that cut a deal, Jeff Lash, I don't know if he'll ever see prison. The questions I have with Gentili is, like I said before, does he have anything to give the government to offset his sentence? Does he have Russians? There's waste management component in New York. There's a couple other things he could give up. Does he have anything on Scientology? And I'm keeping my eye on a couple of people. And like I said, these guys are sloppy. They leave a lot of breadcrumbs. And there is a community of people looking at them. Some of them who are investors who are burned, who've been keeping track. So if you make enemies, you steal from people, you're gonna you're gonna get the payback. Please subscribe, thank you. Uh, yeah, Osa, you should subscribe to my channel. I know I go over and I watch their channels. Oh, you know what? Let's just do what I call dumpster diving. Let's take a quick look before we exit. I always like to go over to Scientology.org and see what fail cult, as Anonymous used to call them. Fail cult, you remember that. And we're going to go share. We're going to just jump over. Yes, everyone else, please like and subscribe. And I appreciate it. I don't do as much podcasting or live streaming lately as I want to because I've been very busy investigating different things. I did get, well, no, I won't talk about that on this show. So we're going to go over stop screen and we're going to go, let's just see what Scientology's up over at their website before we leave. And where's it at? Oh, darn it. I had it. Oh, here it is. So going over to Scientology.org, just jumping in to see what they're doing. What's their cover story? Okay, so they have Abdullah's ready to rise at home. So Abdullah, and they never give last names on Scientology anymore in case the people below escape, go on the internet. So apparently he's ready to rise at home. I don't know what that means. He's ready to rise to new heights of spiritual awareness. He's ready for auditing and the personal revelations it can bring. Oh, listen to this. Look at that first paragraph. As Abdullah arrives at the Church of Scientology, Los Angeles, he is ready to rise to new heights of spiritual awareness. You're right. He's Sea Org bait or ethics bait. I don't know. He's ready for auditing and the personal revelations it can bring. He doesn't know that he's going into a master race cult. Okay. Every day around the world, people participate in auditing, Scientology counseling, to achieve spiritual enlightenment and freedom. Find the nearest church, mission, or group to begin your adventure of auditing. Scientologist at Life Showcases. Okay, so we have Abdullah there. And again, Donnie's sign in The Divine Comedy, you know, abandon hope, all ye who are in or here. Now, what's this say? Latest update. Neil and his scary offspring at life. So Neil is a Scientologist, I guess, with scary offspring. What do you get when you give your son 3 sons face paint? Oh, okay, so I guess that's the thing. Pat's pumped for graduation. Well, look at Pat's pumped for graduation. Okay, I'm glad. Take it from Pat. Friday night graduation at the Advanced Organization Los Angeles is always amazing. Yeah, because they have the streets blocked so the protesters are kept away. What makes it so special is that everyone attending is aiming for the same goal, making the world a better place by shutting down our unharbored way and engaging in psychoterror and fair game and disconnection. Now, Pat's pumped. Pavlina powers her communication. So there, Pavlina, this looks like an That poster for the professional TR's course. How exciting to go into your org and get more advertising. So Pavlina powers her communication for life. Now notice the date, January 9. So I'm at Scientology org, and these are like old stories. Like let's look at Pat's pumped for graduation, January 9, 2023. Scientology. I'm going there on the Daily Connect, you call it, Daily Connect, but this is like over 18 months old. That's a fail. I mean, Pat's pumped for graduation. He was in January 9, 2023. I'd like to talk to Pat now in August 2024, and I bet he's like got his credit card debt and bills. Yeah, I don't know if he's pumped. Okay, let's look at a few more here. Living, loving, learning, and life with Michelle. So this is what's happening in LA. And again, this is January 9. They haven't updated their site. Yeah, because they've been so busy with all this bullshit they're doing on the internet. That's a flunk, Osa. So she's at American St. Hill, but that's 18 months ago. I want to know, like, what's happening now? Where's okay? Okay, so we got the Scientology network. These are old news photos and galleries. What are we seeing? Are we just seeing buildings? Some buildings that are opened. Will it say David Miscavige? Dazzling new Scientology org. Oh no, dazzling new Scientology ideal org shines bright in Paris, the city of light, April 6, 2024. Okay, so the orgs. Oh, look at this. They're comparing. They're using the Eiffel Tower, Arc de Triomphe, the Louvre, Seine River this summer. Must see in Paris. Now, besides, when you go to Paris, they're saying the list of things that people must see in Paris is the Scientology Center, right? Bullshit. And then they have an article for Ron had his birthday. As I understand it, he was given a new ashtray, a couple of cartons of Cools. And that's the Ruth Eckert Hall. Look at that photograph. Okay, so not much. There's David Miscavige, the ecclesiastical pimp. Doesn't look like a whole lot's going on. This is the same old stuff, but it's happening online, so I don't see much. Gosh, that's weird. There's not much going on Scientology.org right now. No, Jeffrey. I want you to know that I am featured on the internet quite prominently at the Scientology.org site, and in fact, I have a video you can play, and it's very fascinating. It's about my early years. I grew up in Montana. Of course, I was riding Broncos, and then I was in Guam, and then I was barnstorming in America. Of course, I was in the Marine Corps. And then I was writing stories and so on. Then I became a World War II hero. Jeffrey, died to you. I was wounded, blinded, crippled, and I have several war medals. Ron, that's bullshit. No, seriously, I was crippled and blinded in the war, and I used early Dianetics to heal myself. And don't you like my sunglasses? They're rather sassy. Of course. But Ron, you wrote in your affirmations that you had venereal disease in World War II from, you know, you well, I did have a venereal disease, but I cured my well, why were you getting a venereal disease? Well, I mean, you were married at the time. Did you your wife didn't know? Yes, but sulfamide cured let Jeffrey, let's not talk about my World War II venereal diseases. It's not it's a sordid part of my past, a very sordid part of my past. We don't talk about sources and why he had venereal disease in World War II. That's off topic, and I'll thank you to put your ethics in. Okay, Ron, what else you got? Well, look at me. I'm just a dandy. I footnote. I was a nuclear physicist, as you know. Ron, you weren't. No, I was a nuclear physicist. There, I was. In fact, I helped put down a nuclear physicists were going to revolt, and I helped put that down with Johnny Arwine, actually, factually. And there I am as a four-star admiral. Okay, Ron, that's just getting nonsensical. So you can see that L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah, it's just like nothing new. Like like so blah 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 travel log. and then we have his philosophy. So not a lot new on the website, and that's it. Well, that's kind of I was hoping to see something like some new claim of so grand openings, events, religious freedom. So this is a 2017 article. That's kind of dated. 2017, Mexico, Colombia. Yeah, well, they had ties to the Interpol general. Okay, so not a lot going on. Well, we'll stop sharing that. Sorry, I was hoping we'd find something new or exciting, but oh yeah, it is, Norma. Same old stuff, new buildings, a few new buildings, yeah. Um, Dianazine cured his radiation poisoning. Yeah, Dianazine, named after his daughter Diana, Hubbard was selling that as a cure for radiation. And when the FDA raided Scientology and took meters because they were charged them with practicing medicine without a license, they seized all those Dianazine pills in the meters and they took it. Room raid. Hey, glad to see you here. Yeah, Dianazine was a Hubbard invention in the 50s and 60s when the nuclear scare was big, and it was real. I grew up with that. I remember ducking cover drills in school when I was young in the 60s. I don't know if they stole their song. I don't know. Um, Pat is not going to lie. Oh, Pat, who was pumped up. Yeah, Pat, who was pumped up. So, oh, is Celebrity Mag back? That's good to know. So I guess they're getting their magazines back. I have to see if Freedom Mag is back. So post-pandemic Scientology Bridge Publications is what is it? I had something here that reminds me. Oh, wow. This is I want to see if I want that. Hmm. Somebody mailed me this book, and oh, that could be a different channel. Somebody, and I think I know who mailed me this book anonymously. Here, let me get it up here. Let me get it. Psychological warfare. And your wife, she would prefer your safe return. Somebody emailed me this book, and I think I know who. So I'll go through it when I finish my current book. But right now, I'll tell you something in ending because I've got a few minutes to hang around. So psychological warfare, and it's odd that it came from where it came from, but I'll go through it. Okay, that's fair enough. If you want to send me a book, you think it's important enough. The um, so yeah, the nuns would tell us to get under our desks. Yeah, I remember being scared as a kid the world could blow up. Um, so radiation poisoning, psychological. Oh, I know what I want to say. Right now, a lot of people who are free zone and free zone adjacent are getting these weird texts and emails, and they're talking about implants, how certain people have been implanted, and some of them including protesters. So there's this weird thing, and I don't know if it's Scientology or the free zoners, but there's a series of weird emails and texts going out. I was going to read one tonight, but I want to like get the next one in the series. But the Scientologists are talking about how this whole thing is part of implanting, and I'm waiting to see if they're going to bring out the Marcabs. So there's these weird texts. You might, if you get a weird email or text, please forward it to me. You should record a History of Man audio. You know what I should do? Um, Adam Ray's hysterical. He's doing a show as Dr. Phil. And if you haven't seen him on YouTube, Adam Ray as Dr. Phil's hysterical. It's just really funny. He did a thing with Bill Burr, which was classic. Bill Burr is a master of comedy. And there's a scene in there I'd like to play. But I think I should just write, because I can write in Hubbard style. I should just write a very short piece and then do an audio book that's completely like Augustine generated Hubbard. Like an I could do that. This is a actually good idea. So I could get in trouble if I actually did real Hubbard, but I could do fake Hubbard. Like like improving Hubbard, like, okay, um it will be found as a needle phenomena. It's very unusual, curious phenomena actually, and it has to do with dianosine. It's the oddest thing. I had gotten radiation poisoning. I was flying through a nuclear cloud following an atomic test in Nevada. I went exterior and I was exploring the nuclear cloud and the photons and so on and so forth. The most curious thing, it had a Viagra-like effect upon my physical body. And Mary Sue said, "Isn't that really curious? You're not really very curious. This is probably something you could put in a bottle and sell." And yet it was a needle phenomenon. It only reads in Scientology orgs. And anyway, you could do stuff like that. Um, oh, yeah, this is it. Complaining a bunch of chatters or OSIN is yeah, that's it. This is, see, I'm glad I got confirmation. Yeah, there's a list going around, and it's claiming that people in the Hacienda Gardens are OSA agents doing stuff out. Yeah, so if you've seen that, I'm glad I could confirm that there's this list of this guy is sending out a list of people who he's trying to identify. And this is supposed to be cryptic and secret, but I'm talking about it because it's batshit crazy. Um, I think I don't I don't think it's taking a joke. I think the email is serious because it's like something like, because part of the email said that somebody was they said something really fucked up, and they said that this was done by an OTA remote viewing it. CLB Bill, did you see the part about the OTA remote viewing this? That was their proof that an OTA had remote viewed this. And so there's this email going around that's really weird. And I'm not I debated posting it, but I don't want to, like, it's like, so um God, that's funny. Yeah, MH370's disappearance. Oh yeah. But Alex, it would have to be stuff when Hubbard was still alive. Or actually, you know what I could do? What I could do is, like, L. Ron Hubbard from Target 2. Alex, that's a good idea, but I would do, like, LRH messages from Target 2. This is Ron talking to you from Target 2 at an undisclosed location. And I want to explain a lot of what's been happening on Tijiak, which you know as the planet Earth. I wanted to discuss many things with you. Uh, for example, the cell phone you're carrying, very Marcab. And I remember when the Marcabs had cell phones. And these devices, you should not be looking. Yeah, you know what? I think maybe I'll just keep doing it because my OT is great. Satire blog. I really haven't done a lot on it because it runs out. But I think if I do a new site called, or maybe I'll do YouTube shorts called LRH messages from T2, Target 2. That would give me a license to have a lot of fun. Wow, that's what, like, interacting Hubbard remote spewing. I think I will start. Yeah, I was pissed because it ruined. Yeah, I know, and I had a I had a misunderstanding about your remote viewing jokes. I apologize. Or LH talking about Xenu's return when a plane that looked like a DC-8 gets zapped. Oh, that reminds me. I'll show you something. As long as we're just hanging around. And I got notes that my podcasts are too long, but it's like I'll just do what I want to do, and people can watch them. I have this thing. I was reading several years ago about Mormon archaeology, how they're trying to prove that Jesus was in the New World. like one of the holy grails of LDS is trying to prove archaeologically that the things in the Book of Mormon, and I had my Book of Mormon handy. I was thumbing through it the other night. These ships were tight like into a bowl or a dish, tight like into a dish. So what I wanted to do in a style of the Onion is here's what I did, because the Scientology should have, archaeology to prove Xenu. And so let me show you this, because this is what my idea is. If I were Scientology, I would use proofs to prove that it's all real. So I did this article in 2018. Archaeo-Scientologists discover an intact 75 million year old space plane. Now, see, I think this would be spectacular. I think I think if you actually found an intact 75 million year old space plane and you get this fossilized thing that's been, in some microclimate and it's perfectly preserved, that would prove that Xena really came. And so that was my plan. And I think it's a pretty good idea. I think Scientologists should discover an intact 75 million year old space plane in a DC. That would really convince a lot of people. And yet they don't. And there's a picture from a Mormon publication of the Caucasian Jesus. You know what here's the problem I have, folks. Okay, Caucasian Jesus in down there in Mexico City, Peru, wherever down South America, Mesoamerica. Folks, Jesus is going to need sunscreen. Okay, he's a Caucasian on the equator. He's going to get sunburned really bad. And so because I'm like very pale, so Jesus is going to need sunscreen. And I think that's one hole in in Mormon theology, is like Jesus will get sunburned. So you gotta like say that, like you would write like, and the way Jesus was protected, he actually had an early form of sunscreen, and it was made from coconuts, which were quite plentiful in that region of the world. No, Ron, they didn't have coconuts. You're thinking of somewhere else. No, I remember. If you look at this picture of the Caucasian Jesus, I was actually there. I was the emperor of the Aztec Empire, and so I can vouch for my good friends in the Mormon Church, because I was in charge. I was the emperor, the king of the Aztec Empire, and I remember Jesus coming over. I had him over to the house. Being Mary Sue. He was quite a nice fellow, but he had a problem. He was an implant, and he was a lover of. Oh, shut up, Ron! Shut the fuck up. Okay, so there you go. Alex, no, because that I wouldn't accept as an argument. I know what you're saying. It's fun wordplay, but no, in real life, that's something. See, this is how I think, because like we all live in the real world, and so anyway, I would do that if I were Scientology, and make a film. Let's pull one up at random, just at random, and see what I was doing last year. Let me see this. Anyway, this wasn't in your plan. Oh, this was directed at somebody. A Scientology tradition, the Thanksgiving Day family sec check. Well, anyway, I think there you go. There you go, kids. I've got the new meter out. We're going to do a sec check before we have stove top stuffing. Not the stuff you can do. Well, anyway, I'm glad, CLB Bilf, that I'm glad you told me that you got that email. And if you got that email going around, it's purportedly listing who all the protesters and people really are and where they work. And no, Alex, I would have to say that Jesus would need sunscreen, and because like us, he was flesh and blood, and but that's something for the Mormons to think about. I think about it only because I get sunburn if I don't use, like, lather on. Okay. Anyway, well, I'm glad you, were here. We went through, the criminal forfeiture ahead, the fines, the penalties, what the Spina brothers paid, and there's just quite a bit. I think it just keeps getting worse for Scientology and the Chase Wave credit card fraud now that the pandemic's over and, you know, things are happening. So I appreciate you watching. If Oh, yeah. No, wait a minute. Sir Crevitus, let's unpack this. If Jesus smoked, the Lord Jesus smoking cigarettes. So Jesus walks into a bar. No, if Jesus smoked, what brand would he smoke? Well, first of all, would Jesus smoke Marlboro, like the Marlboro Cowboy, or would what? Put your name in. Oh, the email was published on Moss Kim channel. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So everyone go over to Moss Kim and you can read that email. So what brand, put in the comments, would Jesus smoke? It would cure his burns according to LRH. Close, but Jesus said, or Ron said that smoking would push, that people get lung cancer because they're not smoking enough, because the nicotinic acid pushes cancer out of the body somehow. The biological mechanism of, he never published in JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, of how cigarette smoking pushes cancer out of the body. Scientologists have an idea that you can push stuff out of the body. Like, I guess there's tiny little cellular microbic Venusian freight trains that push cancer out of the. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking. Anyway, well, I'm glad that we confirmed that email going around. That's good to know. Well, see, no, it wouldn't cure radiation burn. Dianazine would take care of radiation poisoning. So, um, in fact, little small, Heber Jansch wrote in a testimony that I have, it was published, that he, as working as a farm boy, because his father was a polygamist, Carl Jansch, and so all the kids had to work on the farm there in Utah. And Heber said that he was out in the fields during an atomic test nearby, and he got radiation burns, and that Scientology later cured him of that. True story. Um, yeah, so, well, Sir Crepitus, there's so much to know. We have to educate each other. So, radiation poisoning, dianazine, cigarette smoking, lung cancer. And that's in Dr. Hubbard's book of Miraculous Cures. Jesus would smoke cools. Was Jesus a cools guy? I don't know, maybe. So, yeah, and Stephen Fishman, very entertaining, but he's just a little bit there. Okay, well, with that, I think we're going to get out of here. So remember, sunscreen if you're going to time travel at the equator and you're Caucasian, or just you need to sunscreen anyway. And if you get weird emails, send them to me, because there is a weird email program going on, and I'm glad. Correction, Miss Kim. Okay, so yeah, that email. I'm glad other people are posting it, because uh, I'm not. Can you send? Oh, you guys are talking to each other. Okay, well, anyway, so good show. Let's have another one when we get together, even if it's just talking shop. It's good to do. It was not. It's good to talk shop of what's going on the ground organically. I'm enjoying people, the protesters who cover organically what's happening in the streets at the org. I'm going to keep my scanner tuned. That's something that's going to be coming down the show. Thank you, Uber Bob and Karen Sensor. Love to all of you. And we're going to be exiting. But what do we exit on? What's that, Eric Estrada? Oh, Eric Estrada is very disturbed. Well, look at him. He's very disturbed about all things Scientology. And she's shocked. It really is something. Yeah, I agree. Things that shouldn't be report. Well, write it up, and we're going to get the B52 up on the screen. And any more comments? No, hit the like button, hit like and subscribe as always. It will help. It'll help me help you. It will help me help you. Help me help you by liking and subscribing because I like you and you like me. And together it's a win. So let's just play some music. And why isn't it playing? Oh, I know why. Because we need volume. And so thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time in Scientology Money Project on YouTube.